Hi there. What an absolute boiling day we have had today. I'm already sweating. Anyway, it's Monday tea time and I thought I'd just have a very quick chat. I've had an absolutely lovely day today. It's nothing been special about it, but you know when you just have a really nice time, and I've just really enjoyed it. So today's Monday, 22nd of June. For a start, we have had some amazing weather today. Not looking forward to tonight when we're getting in bed because as it's the UK, we don't have aircon and it's going to be like frying. We're just going to melt. So I don't know how much sleep we're going to get. But because it's Monday, that means it's my day where I go to my local craft group. And I normally sit next to this lady called Catherine, and she wasn't there today. So I've sat next to a different lady, and I think she might be called Denise. I still don't know everyone's names there. And we got chatting, and she's a little bit older than me. And a few weeks ago, she mentioned that she'd been to a WI meeting. And so I was just asking her whether she'd been to any more WI meetings. And she's a really nice chatty lady. So she started telling me the last meeting that she'd been to. There was, I don't know if it's a local historian what had been, but he was telling about this particular sort of like gangster group family that we've got in our local area. This is back in the 1920s, like me had. It's not a current one. But it sounds as though they were really notorious back in the day. And she was saying how back in them days, nobody locked the front door. And if the police came round looking for them, they used to actually just walk into people's houses, sit down in one of their chairs, pick up a newspaper and just pretended like they lived there. And because the people who actually did own the house or lived in the house was that frightened of them, they never, confessed and said, I ain't got well, they did know who you were, but they didn't dob them in. But to me, it sounds as though the police must have known who these men were because they were notorious for what they were doing. So they must have known who they were and that they didn't live there. So I don't quite know how they got away with that, but maybe that's just a bit of storytelling. But apparently they were well known in the area, and she was showing me one or two bits on the internet, so it does look like, it was all true what she was telling me, and we've had proper gangsters at one point. We've probably still got some now, but anyway. But the other thing she was telling me, it was a little bit about her childhood, really. And she's come from a kind of like a business family background. Lots of members of her family have all had businesses. And I think she says she's currently 65 now and she's retired. But when she was 17, that's when she had her very first shop. And I can't remember what shop it was that she said she'd had. But when she sold that one and she bought another one, and I know the second shop she bought, the second shop she bought was like a grocery shop with a florist. And by this time, she'd got 3 kids. She said she didn't know how to do floristry, so she went on a course to do a florist course, so she knew how to do that. She was also obviously raising her family, and her grandfather has set up a business delivering coal, so she could also drive lorries. So she said she also used to drive the lorries as well. And she sounded quite honestly like Wonder Woman, but she's someone who just seems to have got such a really rich, fabulous family history. And she was telling me about her granddad. I think he originally started down pits, down mine, and he managed to accumulate enough money to buy a lorry, his very first lorry, and this is how we got into delivering coal. And by the end of it, I think she said he had a fleet of 32 lorries. And back then, when I don't know what year this was, but this was she's 65 and this was her grandfather we were talking about. But she was saying back then, you didn't need a driving license for the lorries. You bought the lorry and you got the license that went with the lorry, so you could drive the lorry because you'd bought the license by the sounds of it, which all sounds a bit, doesn't it? You know, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean? It just seems a bit, yeah, I don't know what word I'm after anyway. So she was saying that obviously this created a bit of wealth for the family, and she was telling me one day her grandmother took her and her sister to a department store, and I'm sure she said they had a Rolls Royce, and one of the lorry drivers kind of like acted as a chauffeur when she wanted to go out and about anywhere. So she took them to this department store and she was buying them a coat each, and it was one of them when, I'm sure you've seen it on old films, so the staff got a chair for grandma to sit on and they fetched the coats out, and she like picked which she wanted for her grandkids. And then after they'd been and done the shopping, they went for their lunch, and it sounds as though it was a particular restaurant that a grandma went to, and she always had the same table at the same time. And on this particular day, because she got the two grandkids with her, they sat down at this table, and it sounds like it was a proper table set out with a white tablecloth and all the cutlery. And one of the waiters came over and he removed the cutlery from in front of the two girls, and I think he put like a placemat down and then put all the cutlery back. And she says their grandma was absolutely livid, and she made him remove the placemats. And basically she was saying, you know, my grandkids are civilised, sort of thing. And as she was saying it, I could just get this visual image of this woman. You can just imagine it from these old films for a start, when you see them when they walk in these department stores, and she used to wear fur coat and fur hats. And I just got this really vivid picture in my head about this woman telling this poor waiter off for putting the placemat down in front of her grandkids. But she certainly seems to have got a really fabulous childhood, and I just thought, what amazing stories that she's got. So I just really enjoyed that couple of hours, and it just goes by so fast. And I'm supposed to be trying to knit myself a scarf, because I've never knitted anything. This is the first thing that I've done. And I think if I've knitted 2 lines, it were pushing it, because we were just sat chatting all the time. And then there's another lady who was sat on the end. Again, I'm not sure what her name is, but she was also contributing to this conversation, especially about this kind of like mafia gang. And she remembers it really well from, I don't know if it must have been, she's a bit older than her. I think she's in her 70s, so I think it was her mother what kind of lived in the area when all of this was going off with these gangsters, and some of the things she actually does remember from her own mother. But yeah, I've just had an amazing time just chatting to these 2 really lovely ladies. And it just shows you, if you can surround yourself with the right people, how much of a difference it makes to your day. And it's really made a real difference to my day. Like I say, it's been nothing special, but what with the weather, the glorious weather, and sitting with these 2 ladies. And before I actually went into this group, it's in a library that's in a shopping centre. Well, it's just outside. And I actually saw someone I used to work with, so it was nice catching up with her. So that was another nice thing that's happened today. And I've just had a barbecue chicken pizza for my tea, which was absolutely delicious. I'm now going to make us a drink, and I have got a slice of carrot cake for afters, which I'm really looking forward to. Then I'm just going to chill out for a few hours before it's bedtime, which like I said, I'm not looking forward to going to bed tonight. It's going to be a hot one. So I'm not quite sure how much sleep we're going to get, which means it's going to be a long, tiring day tomorrow. And we know tomorrow's going to be hot, like I said. So we shouldn't complain though, because who knows what next week's going to bring. This is the UK. It could be freezing cold, and we don't want that, do we? But yeah, I've just had a really nice, pleasant day, and I thought I would share it. So I'd love to hear, have you done anything today? Anything special? Anything not so special? But you've just really enjoyed the day anyway? Because if you do live in the UK, I'm sure you've had some of this lovely, lovely weather. Maybe you've even been in work, I don't know. But at least you've come out to sunshine, and that's the main thing, isn't it, I reckon? Anyway, I'll love you and leave you. As always, thanks for watching. I do really, really appreciate it. And if you'd like to give this video a thumbs up, I'd also really appreciate that as well. So yeah, I'll see you next time. I'm now off for my cup of tea.